From northern Africa to the mountains of Scotland, the California coast, America's urban city centers, South American border towns, and more. Throughout our Prime Focus pieces, our ABC News reporters are shining a light on some of the most pressing and underreported stories of our time. And tonight, we'd like to report on yet another story that's happening behind the scenes. In tonight's Prime Focus, we're in Israel, reporting from one of the country's military prisons, Stephanopoulos, and speak to a former guard who is peeling back the curtain on the alleged atrocities he says he saw in plain sight, kept away from the public as formerly incarcerated Palestinians now speak out. ABC's Britt Clennett reports from Bethlehem.
في الليل لا أستطيع النوم. لا أنام مثل أي إنسان عادي بسبب هذا الظلم الذي وقع عليه.
Limping, hunched over and cradling his arm, after 9 months in an Israeli prison, Moazzez Abayat is a broken man.
Nice to meet you.
From his home in Bethlehem, Moazzez describes to us the abuse he says he received at the hands of the Israeli guards inside Kitziot prison.
قبل أسري أنا إنسان رياضي جسد مشدود.
This is the moment he walked out of prison, released without charge after 9 months of incarceration.
كان في رأسي ضرب في هذه المنطقة بمواسير حديدية وأداة حديدية على رأسي. يدي اليمنى كسرت من هذه المنطقة وكنت أعاني منها وما زلت أعاني منها إصابات. كما كسرت قدمي من هنا من هذا الاتجاه وأنا أعاني لا أستطيع. كما تعرضت لحروق انظروا لحروق في أقدامي.
Arrested at his home in late October, Moazzez was accused of having links to Hamas.
أنا إنسان مدني أعزل لم تعتقلني من جبهة قتال ولا من دبابة مصفحة. فقال لي وشد علي في الكلام قال لي أنت قاتل. قلت له أنا لست قاتلا وأنا لست في صفك ولا في صفهم. فأرجع علي غطاء العين. ثم دخلوا علي مجموعة رجال من وحدة النحشن وانهالوا علي بالضرب.
Moazzez says he was routinely stripped naked and hit in his genitals. These men seen here in videos circulating online in the early months of the war in Gaza, stripped before being transported to Israeli detention facilities. Since Hamas's terrorist attack on October 7th, the Palestinian prison population has almost doubled as part of a sweeping crackdown in Gaza and the West Bank. According to Israeli human rights group B'Tselem, who advocate for Palestinian rights, around half have been held in administrative detention, meaning, like Moazzez, they can be held without charge. Since the war began, an unknown number of Palestinians arrested by the IDF have also been taken to a now notorious military facility in the Negev desert, Sde Timan. Those who have been inside it call it Israel's Guantanamo.
So it wasn't very clear to me in the beginning what Sde Timan would be.
This former prison guard speaking to ABC News, his face and voice concealed at his request.
They told us that as we're like guarding these cells, we're supposed to not allow them to speak or move or peek under their blindfolds. All of the detainees were blindfolded 24/7 basically.
He recounts one punishment when a detainee peeked through his blindfold.
They took him to a relatively hidden place near the cell, and I could hear, banging on the metal wall. They brought him back to the cell, and I could see how the guy's wrists and arms were really visibly bruised. And he showed, his ribcage bruised and bloodied.
He says some soldiers were knowingly and deliberately violent.
There's something about Sde Timan which was so shocking to me is how cold-blooded it all was. Because in the war in Gaza, there's this sense of, danger and urgency, which sort of makes a lot of mistakes admissible as mistakes. And I feel like this can't be a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's all done in complete calm. I honestly think that the only way these things can ever stop is if they're exposed.
A doctor who spent time in Sde Timan also speaking out, on the condition we not name him or show his face.
When I looked around, all of the patients were restrained in a way that goes beyond what I would expect while in a medical facility. Which means each one of them, all of their arms and legs were strapped with handcuffs to the side of the bed, so that it would be basically impossible for them to move or try to reach with their hands, even to their own bodies. Besides that, everyone was blindfolded. Even when we were visiting them, we would not move the blindfolds. Patients we had the opportunity to interact with were naked, besides a diaper. If you think about laying in a bed, unable to move, unable to see, defecating and urinating on yourself as an adult, in my book, that's torture.
This is as far as we can get into the Sder Taman military base. That's after months of serious allegations of abuse against Palestinian prisoners.
This chilling CCTV footage purportedly showing the night that reservists are accused of sexually assaulting a detainee inside Sder Taman. Soldiers appearing to take the prisoner behind a row of shields. The footage airing on Israel's Channel 12, the edited 12-second clip part of the visual evidence in the heart of an investigation. The detainee taken to a nearby hospital with life-threatening internal injuries. 10 reservists arrested in July in connection with the alleged assault. 5 remain under house arrest. The lawyers for the accused guards deny the allegations. In a statement to ABC News, the IDF said it, quote, rejects claims concerning the systematic abuse of detainees in its facilities, including through violence, sexual violence or torture. Any abuse of detainees violates the law and IDF directives and as such is strictly prohibited. They say they investigate allegations of abuse within the prison system. The arrests sparking anger among Israel's far right. Crowds seen here trying to storm both Sder Taman and the detention facility the accused soldiers were held in July, defending the arrested soldiers' right to treat the prisoners how they will. Many Sder Taman detainees have been released back into Gaza without charge. The rest have been transferred into the Israeli prison system. That system run by this man, far-right Minister for National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir.
קייטנה חייבת להיפסק. לא יכול להיות מצב שבו מחבלים ארורים שרצחו ילדים, רצחו נשים, יקבלו תנאים של קייטנה.
Seen here boasting about the conditions inside those jails, saying one of his highest goals is to worsen the conditions of the terrorists in the prisons and to reduce their rights to the legal minimum. He goes on to say, I have already proposed a much simpler solution of enacting the death penalty for terrorists, which would solve the overcrowding issue.
The most racist, even sadistic minister Israel ever had was put by the prime minister to be the minister responsible over 2 of the state systems that have the most potential to be violent and cruel. That's the police and the prisons.
What we heard from witnesses is in line with a major report by Israeli human rights group B'Tselem, which in the past has accused Israel of being a, quote, apartheid regime and no longer a democracy. They say 60 Palestinians have died in Israeli custody between October 7th and when this report was released in August.
Sder Taman, which is a military facility, as we understand it, is really only the tip of the iceberg, because those kind of behavior became the norm in each and every detention facility, whether it is of the Israeli army or the Israeli prison system. When you see something that happened in 16 different facilities to thousands of people, what else can it be rather than a policy?
Asked about claims of abuses like Moazaz's and those described in the B'Tselem report, in a statement to ABC News, IPS, the Israel Prison Service, said they were not aware of the allegations ABC News raised and prisoners have a right to file a complaint.
I guess the argument from the right would be October 7th was a horrific attack and they're trying to prevent it happening again.
October 7th was definitely a horrific day and a horrific attack, criminal. But to take advantage of this collective trauma in order to fundamentally change the system and to shape it according to their racist and violent agenda, that is something cynical, but again, also very, very scary for what's going on now, but also when I think about the future.
Why are you speaking out?
A lot of it comes off a sense of guilt. I did not speak out when I could have in real time. So many of those things didn't make any sense. Besides, revenge. We sort of dehumanized them. We took out the human condition.
And back in Bethlehem, Moaz is cradling his baby boy born while he was in prison.
زوجتي أنجبت لي صبياً أو مولوداً وأنا لست عندها فهذا سبب لي حزن كبير في القلب.
He says sometimes he cannot even recognize his own family. His physical and mental scars on show for all to see. Moazzez says the prison still lives inside of him.
The IPS, Israel Prison Service and Prime Minister's Office, denied ABC News' request for an on-camera interview. The IDF did tell us in a statement that they take allegations of abuse seriously, and such allegations go against IDF values. They said that they will take action when necessary, including criminal investigations of personnel. Our thanks to Britt and the entire team on the ground for that report.